At the wedding I had personally designed from the ground up, my stoic fiancée, my childhood sweetheart, ran off with her assistant, both of them still in their wedding attire. In her place, her younger sister climbed into the limo, grabbing my arm and insisting we drive to the courthouse to get the license ourselves. Then the floral arch behind the altar suddenly collapsed, revealing a room full of guests, all of them laughing at me. The two women who had once sworn to cherish me for a lifetime were now tearing up a symbolic marriage certificate and showering the pieces over my head, all to get a laugh out of their pet assistant, Caleb. The three of them stood on the stage, linking arms for a champagne toast. Your whole wedding concept was so dated, Ethan. Chloe, the younger sister, sneered. Turning it into a surprise bachelor party for Caleb was a massive upgrade. You should be thanking us. The real wedding is on Sunday. Olivia, my fiancée, added, her eyes fixed on Caleb. Isn't his idea brilliant? They were so sure I couldn't live without them. But I just calmly pulled out my phone. Let's lock in a wedding with Sloan Westwood, I texted. Set the date for this Sunday. A stream of ecstatic replies flooded my screen instantly. Yes. Sending over the preliminary designs for the venue now. The team is on it. Caleb draped an arm around Olivia, his smile cloyingly sweet. Don't you worry, Ethan. I'm not the marrying kind. I just wanted to see what it felt like. The Hayes sisters will be back on your arm in no time. I didn't reply. A second later, Olivia slapped the phone out of my hand, sending it clattering to the floor. Are you deaf? Where are the manners the Hayes family taught you? Caleb has a gentle soul. Do you have to be so petty you can't even respond to him? She snapped, stepping in front of him protectively. Her eyes darted to my phone screen before I could snatch it up. What schedule? Are you going on a business trip? It's a company project, I said, quickly pocketing the phone. The three of them looked like a perfect, triumphant trio. It made me, standing there in a suit littered with paper confetti, look utterly pathetic. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Look at him. Does he really still think he's the groom? This is a party the Hayes sisters threw specifically for Caleb. His fiancée runs off, and his first thought is to marry the sister. Pathetic. Chloe Hayes really has him wrapped around her little finger. The guests were all wealthy friends of theirs, their words dripping with malicious contempt. And the two women who had promised to protect me for life were now orbiting Caleb, their eyes full of adoration. I scanned the room. Every romantic detail I had meticulously planned had been systematically destroyed. The pristine white balloons and roses were now splattered with red spray paint that screamed, single and loving it. This whole humiliating spectacle, I realized, was their design. A grand gesture to prove how much they doted on Caleb. My hand trembled as I brushed a piece of paper from my shoulder. Caleb's expression faltered, his eyes turning red as he looked down. Ethan, I'm so sorry. It was my idea to surprise you with a bachelor party. I told them to keep it a secret. I'm so sorry. Olivia grabbed his hand, her face hardening as she turned on me. Can you stop playing the victim? You're a wedding planner. You've seen a million different events. Grow up. At her words, Chloe exploded. She seized my wrist and yanked me in front of Caleb. Ethan, he's just a kid, fresh out of college. How can you bully him like this? Of course he'd be fooled by your pathetic act. Apologize to him. Now, pain shot on my arm. I steadied myself, and without a word, pulled the custom-designed ring from my finger. Olivia's face changed. She instinctively covered her own hand, where the wedding band I'd spent 3 months handcrafting for her had already been replaced by one that matched Caleb's. You're right, I said, my voice steady. You should all enjoy the bachelor party. They stared at me, shocked. It was the first time I had ever conceded so easily in a matter involving Caleb. In the past, he was the source of all our arguments. Like the time he'd thrown away my ulcer medication, and they had diverted every available ambulance in the area just to teach me a lesson, leaving me with a cold warning. Stop faking sick for attention. You only do this when Caleb's around. Well, I wouldn't be faking anymore. We're done, I said, tossing the ring into the air. Olivia froze, her expression darkening. I managed a small, bitter smile. Happy bachelor party, right? Chloe was the first to lose her composure, her brow furrowed in anger. Are you insane? So you don't appreciate the surprise Caleb arranged for you, fine. But a wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. If you don't marry into the Hayes family, who the hell do you think is going to want you? A heart I thought could no longer break chilled another degree. With a calm flick of my wrist, I threw the shredded scraps of the symbolic certificate at her. She let out a strangled gasp and grabbed my wrist, her voice shrill. How dare you? The pain was sharp, a stark reminder of how they used to fuss over me, applying antiseptic to the smallest scrapes, vowing to protect me from everything. Now, I was no longer the one they wanted to protect. It was Mr. Jones's creative idea, I said blandly. I thought you should experience it firsthand. Chloe was speechless, her face flashing between red and white. With a look of disgust, she batted the paper scraps off her and onto me. Have you made enough of a scene? Ethan, Olivia snapped, stepping forward. She tilted her head back, her voice cool and commanding. Our wedding is next week. If you embarrass us in front of all these people again, I swear I will cancel it. In the past, I would have begged for their forgiveness. My parents died protecting me, a tragedy that made my grandmother resent me so much she refused to raise me. So I was taken in by the Hayes family, who were close friends. The insecurity of being a perpetual guest, of living under their roof, meant that whenever one of them was angry, I was always the first to apologize, to smooth things over. In our younger, sweeter days, they would call me their precious boy, promising to shield me from any more pain. We had been together for 17 years. I eventually started a relationship with Olivia, the gentler of the two. Chloe threw a fit at first, but as we grew up, she accepted her role as my de facto sister. But people change. Mrs. Hayes moved overseas for long-term medical care, and I was discarded like an old toy, no longer loved. The wedding I had poured my heart into had become a joke, just like me. The jeers from the crowd grew louder. Someone shouted, "Dump the gold digger. Teach him his place." The two sisters stood with their chins held high, waiting for me to grovel. There was no warmth in their eyes. I pulled my lips into a smile. Well then, I wish the three of you a lifetime of happiness. Congratulations on the wedding. The room went silent. Chloe, livid, lunged forward and grabbed my tie, yanking like a leash. What's that supposed to mean? You know how much a person's reputation matters. Why are you spreading these rumors about Caleb? You're ruining everything. She knew. She knew this was supposed to be our wedding, the one I had dreamed of. And still, she humiliated me for someone else. My breath caught in my throat. As my vision blurred and my eyes met hers, she suddenly froze. I tore her hand away and strode towards the exit. Panicked, Chloe started to follow, but Olivia's calm voice stopped her. Let him go. I'd like to see where a homeless orphan can possibly go without us. Chloe's footsteps faltered. She ran to the hallway entrance and yelled into the empty space. You're really leaving? We'd have been better off raising a dog. A single tear traced a path down my cheek. I heard her mutter a complaint before she returned to the party. The noise faded behind me as I walked toward a car waiting at the curb. Let's go get the license now. Holding the marriage certificate, I felt a little dazed. I had met Sloane Westwood through work. I turned down her advances once, but after all this, fate had brought us together in a marriage of convenience. Since we were married now, I had 5 days to make a clean break with my past. I went back to the Hayes house to pack, but my life was so entangled with theirs. I owed them a debt I could never repay. I called Sloane, my voice trembling, and she wired me the money without a second thought. She had only one condition: plan me a magnificent wedding, the kind of wedding that breaks the internet. Sloane's laughter was a soft, warm melody in my ear as I stared at the exquisite design sketches. From the moment we met, she had relentlessly championed my talent. After our marriage, she gave me access to high-level industry resources I could only have dreamed of, ready to implement any design change I proposed at a moment's notice. It was as if she was determined to build me up. Meanwhile, the Hayes family had given all their best resources to Caleb, leaving me with the scraps. Then they'd take my finished proposals and put his name on them. The thought made my smile fade. Olivia was right. There was a time I couldn't have survived without them. But things were different now. I was learning that love isn't about controlling someone. It's about giving them the freedom and support to stand on their own. It was late, 4 days before my departure, and I was drifting off to sleep when I heard faint whispers outside my door. See? I told you he couldn't leave us. All that tough talk, and he still comes crawling back like a puppy. I forced myself up. The sketches on my desk were snatched away by Olivia. Our wedding is just around the corner. What's the point of planning something new now? She didn't know this plan was for my wedding to Sloane. I silently took the papers back. She frowned, then gently pressed my hand to her cheek, her voice softening. Caleb, just wanted to surprise you. We're getting married for real next week anyway. Don't be mad anymore, okay? She assumed, as always, that Caleb was behind the design. Every anniversary, every birthday party of mine, they would bring Caleb along to liven things up, turning my carefully planned events into chaotic showcases for him. I would always end up in a corner, eating a ruined piece of cake, while he shone as the star. Just like now, they had abandoned me for 2 days for Caleb, without a single text to see if I was okay. I was exhausted. I mumbled a non-committal response without looking up. Olivia sighed in relief. Chloe, who had been hiding by the door, came in reluctantly. "Ethan, we were too harsh today. The Hayes house will always be your home. We're sorry." I nodded. Olivia, finally relaxing, presented me with a gift box. When she opened the lid, it revealed a pair of worn sneakers. It was the gift I had been looking forward to for months. They held the box like it was radioactive, their faces instantly panicked. I watched them, a humorless smile playing on my lips. Chloe looked down, quickly closing the box, her voice a mix of excuse and complaint. "The guest must have left them here by accident. The boxes look so similar, I must have mixed them up." Olivia, who had sworn she would never lie to me, chimed in to cover for her. "Yeah, you know how some of our friends like to get comfortable." I didn't know any guest who was allowed to ride in their private car. In fact, ever since Caleb arrived, the front passenger seat of that car had become his exclusive territory, his bare feet propped up on the very cushion that once supported my back. But I didn't care anymore. My quiet compliance seemed to unnerve them. "Ethan, you don't seem happy. Are you really not angry anymore?" The next second, their expressions turned wary. "If something's wrong, you tell us. But don't you dare take it out on Caleb." I shook my head. I just realized I shouldn't be throwing tantrums anymore. They exchanged a look, surprised by this long-lost obedience. Just then, their phones chimed in unison. They glanced at each other, a flicker of excitement in their eyes, and immediately prepared to leave. I kept my gaze lowered. "Aren't you going to give me my gift?" They froze, their excitement souring into annoyance. They tossed the box at me, hitting me in the face. "Can't you tell when something is important? How do we never realize you were such a materialistic person?" Seeing blood trickle from my forehead, they hesitated for a second, but didn't stop. "Just open it yourself. The first aid kit is in the bathroom." The front door slammed shut. The clock struck midnight. 3 days left. I spoke softly to the empty room. "Did you know? Today was my birthday." It had finally come to this. They didn't even remember my birthday, but maybe that was for the best. At least I wouldn't be the butt of anyone's joke. I booked a flight for Sunday, the day after tomorrow. Early in the morning, under a gloomy, drizzling sky, I went to the cemetery. When I was a child, I had insisted on a birthday trip to the mountains. A mudslide hit, and my parents were buried alive. I could never accept that I was the reason the two people who loved me most were gone. I grew up drowning in guilt and grief. Sloane had been the one to comfort me. "They loved you, Ethan," she'd said. "That's why they held you above their heads when the mudslide came. They wanted you to be happy." Hot tears streamed down my face. No one had ever said that to me before. Everyone, including the Hayes sisters who conveniently avoided the topic, treated me like I was my parents' killer. I wanted to speak to my parents alone for a bit, so Sloane waited for me outside the cemetery gates. To my surprise, I found Olivia and Chloe standing in front of the grave. I froze. They hadn't come here to pay their respects in 3 years, not since Caleb arrived. I took a hesitant step forward, a flicker of hope in my chest. But in the next second, they picked up shovels and began to dig. My blood ran cold. I sprinted towards them, screaming, throwing myself between them and the grave. "What are you doing? Those are my parents." They looked guilty for a split second before their expressions hardened with self-righteousness. Caleb's pet tarantula died, and his spiritual advisor said, "This spot has the most harmonious energy. We found a better place for your parents." "But these are my parents," I roared, tears of rage and disbelief flooding my eyes. Caleb appeared out of nowhere and shoved me, moving to shield Chloe. "You psycho. I won't let you hurt Chloe and Olivia." In the chaos, the urn was knocked over, shattering on the ground. Both sisters immediately rushed to Caleb, fussing over a small scratch on his ankle from a ceramic shard. I collapsed to my knees, gathering the ashes, my body shaking with sobs. They had loved my parents once, too. They had been showered with affection by them as children. And now, for a dead spider, they were desecrating their grave. Caleb let out a sharp cry of pain, but for once, neither sister instantly turned their attention to him. Seeing me so broken and covered in mud, Chloe looked momentarily panicked. Olivia was the first to kneel, putting an arm around me. "You can't bring the dead back to life, Ethan." I raised my hand to slap her, but Caleb threw himself in front of her, taking the blow before stumbling to the ground. "It's okay, Olivia, as long as you're not hurt. I just want Ethan to not be angry anymore." He collapsed to his knees in front of me, his voice choked with fake tears. But I had pulled my hand back. I had barely grazed his cheek. In an instant, the sister's flicker of sympathy for me curdled into pure fury. Chloe grabbed my head and shoved my face into the mud. Olivia kicked the back of my knees, forcing me to kneel before the shattered urn. "You killed your own parents, and now you're trying to hurt Caleb. How can someone so vicious even face them?" I struggled, but I was no match for them. Their words were like needles piercing my heart. Behind them, Caleb gave me a triumphant, crooked smile. Then he picked up the largest remaining piece of the urn and smashed it again on the ground. Olivia flinched, then bit her lip. I'll have someone clean up my aunt and uncle's ashes. Right now, the most important thing is to teach you a lesson. I screamed and tried to crawl forward, but their bodyguards grabbed me, dragging me away. In my moment of utter despair, I saw Sloane's figure appear at another exit. My eyes widened. I opened my mouth and screamed for help. Almost instantly, a bodyguard's hand clamped over my mouth, his other arm choking off my air. I was thrown into the back of a security vehicle, still pounding on the window, praying Sloane would see me. But the roar of the engine was deafening, and all I could do was watch my only hope disappear. The car screeched to a halt in front of the Hayes mansion. Olivia gently held the car door for Caleb, while Chloe violently dragged me out. She grabbed the bags I had packed and started throwing my belongings at me. The three of them stood under an umbrella, looking down at me as I was soaked by the relentless rain. Chloe's voice was a blade of mockery. What's this? Weren't you running away from home? You even packed your bags. I just wanted you to see for yourself. Where exactly can you go without the Hayes family? I silently knelt to pick up my ruined equipment. Olivia's voice washed over me. Apologize to Caleb right now, and you can still be our family's son-in-law. I sorted through the drenched electronics. Not a single piece was salvageable. If I couldn't keep it, I might as well throw it away. A sharp screech of tires cut through the rain. A warm coat was draped over my shoulders. Sloane was standing over me, holding an umbrella, her expression colder than I had ever seen. You're saying my husband, she said, her voice dangerously low, is your family's son-in-law. In an instant, both sisters abandoned Caleb, closing in on Sloane, their faces dark and menacing. They spoke in unison, but their words were for me. So you've been ignoring us all this time to shack up with this cheap whore. You're already calling her your wife? Have you no shame? Are you that desperate for a woman? Sloane was notoriously private, and her unknown identity became a weapon for Olivia to wield. Olivia's hand clamped on my shoulder, her grip like iron. The normally gentle woman was shaking with rage. I am your fiancé. Ethan, you're cheating on me, and you're not even trying to hide it? I raised my hand, and the sharp crack of it connecting with her face echoed in the rain. Olivia's head snapped to the side. She didn't move. Sloane's warm hand slipped into mine. Her mocking gaze shifted to Caleb. You keep a boy toy on the side and still demand absolute fidelity from your partner. Is this the kind of class the Hayes family teaches you? To treat a woman like property? Silence. Caleb, now standing alone as both umbrellas had moved away from him, had a twisted look on his face. He tried to look brave, his eyes red-rimmed as he ducked under Chloe's umbrella, putting his arm around her. Let me hold that for you, Chloe. And don't worry about my ankle, it's fine. Ouch. But surprisingly, no one paid him any attention. The man for whom I once had to run miles to buy special pain medication was now getting no reaction at all. Chloe didn't push him away, but she didn't embrace him either. She and Olivia were staring at me, searching my face for any sign of emotion. But I was perfectly calm. Olivia's grip on my arm tightened, her knuckles white. She hissed, Caleb and I are just friends, Ethan. Don't listen to her lies. Caleb's face fell. Olivia, what are you talking about? We already. No, Olivia cut him off frantically. Ethan, this time, it was me who interrupted. But I already told you, we're broken up. Watching Olivia's eyes instantly fill with tears, I pulled my arm free. Chloe reached for me, her voice filled with anguish. What's so great about that woman? The Hayes family raised you for over a decade. How dare you leave? Raise me? My grandmother had been sending them regular payments for my upkeep all along. I turned my head and coughed, pointing to the waterlogged design tools on the ground. I have nothing to do with the Hayes family anymore. You just threw me out yourselves. The color drained from their faces. They stammered. That's not what happened, Ethan. I just put my arm around Sloane's shoulder and walked away. Olivia and Chloe's screams echoed behind us. You'll regret this. Ethan. I didn't look back once as Sloane shielded me from the rain and led me out of the Hayes family's life. On my last day in the country, I went to my old office to finalize my departure. Sloane was stopped at security, but waited for me just outside the floor entrance, a silent, unmoving guardian. As I was handing over my projects, I heard former colleagues whispering. That's him, the fiancé of the Hayes sister who was cheating. Can you believe he was hooking up with someone else at his own parents' grave? So ungrateful. My phone buzzed. A storm of articles and photos of me and Sloane had hit the internet. Hashtag Top Wedding Planner Cheats was trending. The cancellations came flooding in. I would never let a cheater design my wedding. Scumbags like you should just die. The DMs were a river of poison. I calmly cleared my notifications and prepared to leave, but Olivia and Chloe cornered me in the stairwell. Their eyes were red and raw as they looked up at me. Ethan, I knew you'd come back to us. We'll get married tomorrow, and the rumors will disappear, Olivia said, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. I know you were just trying to make us jealous with that woman. It's okay. I don't hold it against you. This is what you wanted, right? Chloe nodded vigorously. Yeah. Are you still mad that we threw your stuff out? It was just a little joke. All that equipment was old anyway. I tried to pull my hand away. Did you do it? I asked coldly, referring to the smear campaign. A flicker of guilt crossed their faces. Their grip on my hand tightened. When I didn't react, they grew more frantic. It was Caleb. He did it. And he's been punished, we promise. The lead planner position has always been reserved for you. Of course I knew it was Caleb. He'd been moping all morning because they demoted him, a punishment softened by a steady stream of expensive gifts being secretly delivered to his private office. I just shook my head. Do you remember that all that old stuff were gifts from you? They froze. Old things, I said, my voice flat, should be replaced. I calmly pulled my hand free and turned to leave. Ethan, their voices snarled behind me. You're a wedding planner. Are you really going to let this scandal destroy your entire future? I knew Caleb was just the face of the operation. The ones really fanning the flames, pushing the story, were the two of them. After a long silence, I nodded. Fine, pick out a dress. Their eyes lit up, their faces breaking into ecstatic smiles. I knew you couldn't leave us. Let's go check on the wedding venue right now. I almost laughed. The only reason I was looking at their dress options was to ensure that even the most basic silhouette wouldn't be something Sloane would wear. I didn't want anything about my new life to be tainted by them. They pushed me into the passenger seat, just like old times. But when they saw the soft cushion I'd left there was gone, their faces fell and they pulled me into the back seat. I pretended not to notice. Sloane's car followed at a discreet distance. When we arrived at the venue, they opened the doors for me, one on each side, a gesture of courtesy I hadn't seen in years. It was a stark contrast to the time they'd left me alone in a downpour to fend for myself at a gala, having taken all the bodyguards to escort Caleb home. They spoke carefully. See, this is all based on your original wedding plan. Those are reporters from the network. Tomorrow, I'll clear everything up. Her words died in her throat. They both stared wide-eyed. The venue was a chaotic mess, the floral arrangements a hideous shade of green. Caleb strolled out as if he were taking a walk in the park. Oh, you're here. Seeing me, he feigned shock, moving to protectively shield Olivia and Chloe. But Chloe yanked him forward, her voice furious. Who told you that you could change everything? She hissed, her eyes darting nervously towards me. Caleb blinked, his voice dropping. You demoted me. I just wanted to contribute, and this was the biggest project I could work on. You're the ones who gave me the all-access pass to the planning sites. He frowned, a move that would normally have the sisters cooing and comforting him. But now, they just scrambled over to me. Ethan, don't get the wrong idea. We only gave him the pass because you weren't here. Caleb's face twisted with rage. I just shook my head, uninterested, and handed them the photo of the dress style I'd chosen. This whole disastrous plan was based on one of my discarded drafts anyway, how it ended up in Caleb's hands and passed on to them. I didn't care to know. And they had given him that all-access pass years ago. Seeing that I'd made a choice, Olivia and Chloe finally relaxed. We'll pick you up tomorrow. Don't worry, the media won't affect you. We'll get you even bigger clients in the future. I gave him a non-committal shrug, my focus already on the plane ticket and the final design proposal in my hands. My detached demeanor was clearly unnerving them. On the drive back, they tried to make small talk, sensing something was deeply wrong, but not knowing how to fix it. They stood guard outside my temporary hotel room until late into the night. When I opened my suitcase, the design sketch fluttered out. Olivia picked it up, her eyes shining. Ethan, I knew you were excited about the wedding. We can have another one based on this design later, okay? We have all the time in the world. Chloe threw an arm around my shoulders, her voice joyful. The Hayes family will always be your home. After they left, I showered 3 times, scrubbing my hands until they were raw. The next morning, I got into Sloane's car and headed for the airport. My phone buzzed incessantly. Panic texts from Olivia and Chloe. Where are you? Answer your phone. Why aren't you at the hotel? Text US back. Amidst the trending news that a top wedding planner was a home-wrecking adulterer, I calmly removed my SIM card and dropped it into an airport trash can. When I landed in another country and arrived at our wedding venue, I finally felt a true sense of release from the past. There was a knock on the door. An assistant handed me a phone streaming a live feed from back home. At the Hayes' wedding, Someone shouted that the groom had arrived. Olivia looked up, her face alight with hope. The cameras swiveled, only to land on Caleb, stepping out of a car in a wedding tuxedo. He walked confidently toward Olivia, who flinched away from him. Chloe forced a smile for the cameras. "Ethan, you'd better hurry up, or someone's going to steal your bride." The joke, once a natural part of their dynamic, now landed with a thud, confusing the reporters. Caleb smiled apologetically at the press. "Sorry, everyone. My groomsman suit was ruined. This was the only backup." Olivia, her face dark, grabbed him and demanded in a low voice, "Where is he?" Caleb stammered for a moment before blurting out, "He's gone. Who knows? Maybe he ran off with that slut he was seeing." Olivia and Chloe's eyes widened in disbelief, their nails digging into their palms. They bolted from the venue. The TV crew scrambled after them, desperate to get the shot. But the moment they burst outside, the massive digital billboards in the square lit up, playing a montage of me and Sloane from the past few days. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. The story exploded. So the cheating story was true? Is this the Hayes family's revenge? But in the next second, a high-resolution image of my marriage certificate with Sloane filled the screen. The date was clearly visible 5 days ago. What followed was a flood of evidence I had collected over the years. Every project credit stolen from me. Every medical emergency they had ignored. On my phone screen, the faces of Olivia and Chloe turned ghostly white. They swayed on their feet. 5 days ago, they had publicly humiliated me at the wedding I designed, all for Caleb. 5 days later, they were still letting Caleb play the role of best man, while I was starting a new life. I put down the phone and let go of the past. Just as the evidence montage ended, the live stream of my wedding with Sloane began. The very plan Olivia thought was for her was now brought to life for another woman. A sky of pink and white balloons, fantastical multi-layered scenery. The Westwood family's resources had turned my frantic, sleepless nights of design into a breathtaking reality. Seeing the perfect wedding I had poured my soul in had finally come alive. My eyes welled with tears. Sloane threw her arms around me, her smile beautiful and triumphant. My design made the wedding sparkle with romance, and the Westwood family's wealth, which dwarfed anything the Hayes family could muster, coated it all in a layer of gold. Everyone was marveling at every detail, every concept. At the end of the broadcast, Sloane raised her glass to the camera. A toast to everyone who found their happiness today, just as we have. I could see the quiet pride in her eyes, and it made me smile, genuinely and more happily than I had in years. We raised our glasses together, the crystal clinking as we linked arms. Off camera, we simultaneously put down our microphones, bringing the magnificent ceremony to a perfect close. The wedding of the century, and the revelation of the long-hidden Westwood heir shot to the top of the trending charts, spawning a dozen related hashtags. Many of them featured clips of Olivia and Chloe's public meltdown. The very media storm they had helped create had now turned back on them, a knife of their own making. Public opinion turned on a dime. The few accounts still defending the Hayes family were quickly suspended. For the first time, people saw the true influence of the Westwood family and revised their opinion of the Hayes dynasty. I, however, was focused on preparing for an international design competition. I was completely surprised when I ran into Olivia and Chloe while scouting locations during my honeymoon on the Amalfi Coast. It wasn't until they rushed forward and tried to grab me that I realized they were there for me. "That wedding plan was for me. You designed it for me. Come home, Ethan. This tantrum has gone on long enough," Olivia demanded, her brow furrowed. Chloe's voice was sharp. "You're coming back with us right now to clear this up. You think you can fool us with a fake marriage license? Your disappearing act has done massive damage to the Hayes family's reputation. Stop being so childish." They tag-teamed me. I wrenched my arm free. "That plan was never for you. Our wedding ended the day you turned it into a bachelor party for Caleb." A few kind bystanders quickly stepped between us, blocking their outstretched arms. They glared past them, shouting at me. "Ethan, tell them to get lost. Let us explain." I calmly thanked the helpful strangers and dialed the police. They stared at me in disbelief. "Ethan, have you forgotten everything the Hayes family did for you? We raised you." I took Sloane's hand, my voice firm. "I have a wife now. Please stop harassing me." Chloe seemed to snap. She broke free and lunged at Sloane, her hand raised to strike. "You home-wrecking bitch. Seducing another woman's fiancé," she screamed, and through her rage, I saw a flicker of genuine anguish in her tear-filled eyes. "Ethan belongs to the Hayes family." I pulled Sloane into my arms, taking the heavy slap across my neck. Chloe stumbled back, as if waking from a dream. "Wait, I didn't mean to." Olivia looked at me, her expression pleading. Ethan, yet. Forgive Chloe. Chloe. She was waiting for me to do what I always did. Accept the apology, comfort them, and make it all better. A racking cough escaped my lips, but my resolve didn't waver. Tears streamed down their faces. Why? Is it about money? We can give you anything she can give you. They still thought I had abandoned them for the Westwood fortune. I almost laughed at how little my years of devotion had been worth. When the police led them away, I straightened Sloane's collar. Why didn't you let the bodyguards handle them? I asked. Let them spend a few days in a holding cell, she said, her voice soft but laced with an unmistakable chill. They can't be allowed to ruin our honeymoon. I couldn't help but smile. After that, I paid no attention to news about Olivia and Chloe's return to the States. My focus was entirely on the competition. One evening, after a long day of work, there was a knock on the door. I assumed it was Sloane, back from running errands. Instead, I found Olivia and Chloe standing on my doorstep, drenched and shivering. They looked gaunt and exhausted. My first thought, surprisingly, was for Sloane. I hoped she had brought an umbrella. Seeing me about to close the door, Chloe frantically wedged her foot in the frame, her voice trembling. Ethan, aren't you going to invite us in? I shook my head. I have to go bring my wife an umbrella. Olivia's eyes reddened. Ethan, how could you not love me? It's impossible. I was wrong. I didn't pay enough attention to your feelings before. Be good, come back with me. That marriage license has to be a fake. She reached for me, her voice pleading. Ethan, stop this temper tantrum. I stepped back. Do I need to remind you? This is a foreign country. For trespassing, I am legally allowed to shoot you. They looked at me, their faces masks of agony. But I was no longer the puppy who would come running with a single comforting word. My love for them was what had kept me tethered. Now I just held my hand out, a polite but firm gesture for them to leave. What's the matter? Now that you've had your fun with Caleb, you suddenly remember how good Ethan was to you. Sloane's voice cut through the tension. She stepped in from the hallway, shaking her umbrella and spraying them with water. Ethan is my husband now, Sloane stated, her composure making the two sisters look even more pathetic and bedraggled. And a good ex-girlfriend should act like she's dead. Chloe's fingernails dug deep into her palms. We grew up together. Don't you remember that time it rained in high school, and you ran all the way to give us your umbrella? Seeing a flicker of memory in my eyes, she pressed on, her own eyes lighting up. And your birthday gifts? We always your favorite design tools. You remember we said we'd have a party for just the three of us. I snapped out of my reverie and smiled, glancing past her into my studio. She followed my gaze and saw the shelves lined with countless pristine, state-of-the-art design tools. You haven't given me a gift in years, I said softly. All those tools were obsolete long ago. Even the memories have been thrown away by their own hands. Her hand dropped to her side, trembling. The rain-soaked tools they had destroyed had long since been replaced with something new, something better. Still not leaving? Your little boyfriend is here to find you, Sloane said with a smirk. The sisters looked up, confused. A figure burst through the open door and threw his arms around their waists. You promised you'd be good to me. Next time, please don't leave me behind. Even when they came to apologize to me, they brought Caleb along. Such devotion. Get off, they both shouted, shoving him away. They looked at me frantically. Ethan, we felt like you were asking for too much before. We just wanted to teach you a little humility. We've always loved you. Caleb stumbled, then pulled a knife from his pocket, his face contorted with hate as he lunged at me. It's all your fault, you piece of trash. You climbed the social ladder and ruined the Hayes family's name. His eyes were bloodshot, his face haggard. He must have had a rough time back in States. But before Sloane could even move, Olivia and Chloe grabbed a heavy chair and brought it down on him. Caleb crumpled to the floor, unable to get up. But they only had eyes for me. See, Ethan? We really don't care about him. We know he mistreated you. Trust us. We'll make him pay. Just look at us one more time. It wasn't that they didn't know. It was that they had only ever seen what they wanted to see. As my bodyguards dragged them out, they were still screaming, just as I had screamed when I was dragged from the cemetery. Sloane had them arrested for trespassing. It didn't stop a new wave of online attacks. Hashtag Ethan Scott plagiarist. Hashtag Ethan two-timing cheater. The articles twisted the timeline, claiming I had been with Sloane while planning my wedding to Olivia. It was obviously Caleb's handiwork. I frowned, but Sloane just walked over with a thick binder of documents. Don't worry, she said with a bright smile. It's being handled. Her confidence was contagious. I let it go. While out buying supplies, I overheard some news about the Hayes sisters. Their grandfather had forbidden them from leaving the country again and was forcing them to personally undo the financial damage they had caused the company. I breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, no more distractions. The competition organizers came to interview me about my installation. I listened nervously as they showered it with praise. Sloan had told me I was a shoo-in for the top 3 globally. But a week before the results were announced, a plagiarism notice was posted online featuring one of my old designs. I looked closer. The name credited was Caleb Jones. I opened the chat window where the sisters had been sending me a constant stream of messages. After they had been thrown out of my house, they had apparently tied Caleb up and tortured him, even taking away his ulcer medication. Back in the States, they forced him to work around the clock, running him ragged until he was a shell of his former self. They sent me pictures of his miserable state, which made me deeply uncomfortable. "Ethan, we know you hate him. We're getting revenge for you," their messages pleaded. "I don't hate him anymore," I typed back calmly. "Compared to him, you're the ones who hurt me more." The typing indicator on their end appeared and disappeared several times before finally going silent. They must have entered him into this competition on my behalf. Suddenly, Caleb was trending again, and the old story of him being a side piece resurfaced. His reputation as a planner was utterly destroyed. "So you're telling me all his previous work was stolen? He stole Ethan Scott's fiancée too, right?" Those sisters were blind, propping up a plagiarizing hack like he was some kind of genius. The public mockery was relentless. Mr. Hayes was furious, but not a single negative comment was taken down. Olivia and Chloe let the words cut them like knives, a form of self-flagellation. "Does this make you feel any better?" They messaged me, their tone no longer arrogant but cautious and small. "I would have won this award with or without anyone's help," I replied coolly. "What you do has nothing to do with me." The chat window went silent for good. I cleared my mind and waited for the results. Looking out at the skyline of my home country, which I hadn't seen in over a year, I felt a sense of peace. The absurd, painful memory of that bachelor party had finally faded. Sloan swiped the keycard, and we entered our hotel suite. "Those 2 pests from the Hayes family are here again," she said with a sigh. "They're kneeling at the hotel entrance, begging to see you." I drew back the curtain. Down below, they were kneeling stubbornly on the pavement while a crowd of onlookers took photos. The topic was already starting to trend. "Olivia is so devoted. And poor Chloe. Wasn't her fault. She's suffering too. Wake up, people, he's a married man. This isn't devotion, it's stalking." I like that second comment. Self-serving devotion is the most useless kind of emotion. I had learned that a long time ago. The next morning, every article about me being a cheater had been wiped from the internet. In their place were the full security camera recordings from my wedding to Olivia. The world could now clearly see how Olivia and Chloe had humiliated their own fiancé for Caleb's sake. At that very moment, I was stepping onto the award stage to accept the grand prize in a global design competition. My winning installation was a forest landscape, with stone steps covered in a cascade of flowers. A dreamlike scene, like a gateway to another world. I held the crystal trophy, its surface entwined with floral carvings, and embraced Sloan. But as we left the exhibition hall, I saw Caleb. He was already being restrained by security, a bottle of acid clutched in his hand. As they dragged him away, he screamed at me, "Why do you get to have everything? The designs, the awards, and 3 women who love you wrapped around your finger. What?" I just shook my head. "Instead of looking for your value in women, maybe you should try developing it in yourself." There was a time when all my work was filtered through the lens of Olivia and Chloe's approval. But stepping outside of that bubble, I saw that the world was so much bigger than the tiny, toxic universe of the Hayes family. He kicked and cried, completely unhinged. As for Olivia and Chloe, they disappeared from my life after the award ceremony. I still saw news about them from time to time. The projects Caleb had taken over for me all failed spectacularly. Olivia and Chloe let the family business crumble. Their retired father had to come back to clean up the mess, but he couldn't stop the company's stock from plummeting. The 2 of them were drowning in debt, forced to beg for loans. They started messaging me again from new accounts. "We're atoning. We're in so much pain. This is what we deserve. Ethan, can you forgive us now?" Did it make me happy? Not really. Even if the Hayes family went bankrupt, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Sloan and I decided to take a long vacation to celebrate. Toward the end of our trip, I went to the cemetery. The Westwood family had found a beautiful, secluded place to reinter my parents' ashes. We were heading abroad again, and though I had told them my good news on the day of the awards, I wanted to say goodbye in person one more time. "Mom, Dad," I whispered, wiping the polished stone. "Look at me. I'm doing okay." I stayed until dusk, then walked down the mountain. At the bottom of the path, I saw 2 unexpected figures, Olivia and Chloe. They looked lost and haggard, a shadow of their former glorious selves. Seeing me, they stumbled to their feet. They must have been waiting there for hours. Olivia looked straight at me. "Ethan, we came to apologize to your parents." I frowned. They quickly, awkwardly corrected themselves. "We've regretted what we did every single day. We searched everywhere, asked countless people, and finally found out they were here. We honestly just wanted to apologize. I'm afraid you tarnished their memory." They froze, standing stiffly in place. I sighed and got into the waiting car with Sloane, heading straight for the airport. Their car followed at a distance. As we drove, I could hear the chatter of people on the street looking at their phones. "It's so creative and beautiful." I thought his wedding with Sloane Westwood was the peak of his design, but this is even better. If I missed a wedding like that, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. On the faces of Olivia and Chloe, a look of immense, inexplicable pain appeared. But they were held back by bodyguards, far from the crowd, only able to watch me from a distance as I drove away.